This is a timeline of universal history. The date system used in this timeline is the Universal Standard Calendar. There are several differences between the original timeline set by Frank Herbert's DUNE and the timelines set by the DUNE Encyclopedia and the prequels respectively, both of which actually conflicted with some of Frank's dates. BG 1300s, BG 19th century AD. The Luddites destroy machines. 11,200 BG 1960 AD. The beginning of space travel. C. 11,000 Bulgarian Lev. Following the second interspace migrations, the Jews hide their identity from the non-Jews. C. Pet Hiledi Gudini. Sand trout are brought to water-rich Arrakis by the wandering Muad'Ru and begin desertification. Sand trout, sandworm melange cycle begins. C. Dve Hiledi I Petstotin Gudini. The old empire is formed from the populated planets at the end of the last Terran migrations. Dve Hiledi I Dvesta Gudini Slet Christa. Arneklo, Quina, Vidad, and others become long-lived cyborg cogators. Some follow Vidad to Hesra to contemplate the universe in isolation. Others become hermit philosophers on inhabited worlds. C. Hiliada Petstotin I Osemdeset Gudina Slet Christa. The second Islamic movement begins under the second Muhammad. C. Hiliada I Petstotin Gudini Slet Christa. All of the Muad'Ru vanish at independent sites all over the galaxy. The Tlulaxa merchants of the League are spawned by Zen-Sunni ecumenism. C. Hiliada Cetiristotin I Osemdeset Gudini Slet Christa. The third Islamic movement begins under the Prophet Mahomet, the third Muhammad. C. Hiliada Cetiristotin I Petdeset Gudini Slet Christa. Scientists arrive on Arrakis to assess it for future colonization, and botanical testing stations are established on the planet. C. Hiliada I Cetiristotin Gudini Slet Christa. During the rule of Emperor Shakad the Wise, the imperial chemist Yanshu Pashkoko discovers the geriatric spice melange on Arrakis. Later, Shakad himself takes credit for this. Hiliada Trista Usemdeset I Edno Gudina Slet Christa. The Buddhislamics break away from the teachings of Mahomet and the third movement. T. Hiliada Trista I Petdeset Gudini Slet Christa. Schism in the Buddhislamic religion. Zen-Sunnis and Zen-Shiites break from each other. Later, Zen-Sufi and Zen-Shia denominations also form. C. Odna Hiliada Trista I Trideset Gudini Slet Christa. Zen-Sunnis and Zen-Shiites leave the non-Buddhislamics and migrate outside the borders of the old empire. The Zen-Sunni wanderers roavel from one world to another in search of freedom from persecution and enslavement by the imperial raiders. Time of Titans 1287 to 1182 BG. Odna Hiliada Dvesta Usemdesed I Sedem Gudini. Tlaloc fails to bring the old empire out of her slumber. 20 people, the 20 Titans, set out to conquer the empire with him. The programming expert Barbarossa reprograms computers, giving them human aggression and hunger for power. With his aid, the old empire falls 11 in the revolt of the Titans across the old empire, which begins the time of Titans. Xerxes kills his father. Some systems on the edge of the empire resist and found the League of Nobles centered on Seleucia Secundus and led by a series of viceroys, beginning with Bovco Manresa. Cogator Quina retreats to Seleucia's city of introspection. scientists abandon Arrakis. Одна хиляда двеста восемьдесят години Tlaloc dies. Agamemnon and other titans have themselves transformed to Simex. Say, Одна хиляда двеста тридцать и пет години Rodel 9 is renamed X. Одна хиляда сто деветдесет и две години след Христа. The first Rethgar rebellion begins on Walgus. Xerxes trusts keeping the order on his planets completely to the local computer network. 1183 BG Ajax, Lord of Walgus, crushes the Rethgar rebellions and exterminates the populace. Outraged by the massacre, his mate Hecate transfers her brain into a deep space vessel and disappears. Rule of Omnius, 1182 to 201 BC. 1182 BG Xerxes' AI network seizes control over Ix. Naming itself Omnius, it establishes the synchronized worlds, which usurp the Titan-controlled worlds. The Titans are made his servants. Omnius launches his first attacks against the League, beginning a war of attrition which will continue for centuries. The Buddhislamics, who believe the rise of thinking machines to power is Kralizek, the typhoon struggle at the end of the universe of prophecies, flee mainly to the unallied planets. Later, Buddhislamic slaves are introduced on some League planets. Одна хиляда осемдесет и две години след Христа, Barbarossa creates Beowulf. 8th century BG. Tibana, a leading Socratic Christian of 4th Enbus, writes, The hearts of all men dwell in the same wilderness. 603 BG. Omnius launches an unsuccessful attack against Chusak. 443 години. Human slaves and contractor robots complete Omnius's Colosseum. 400 лет před naším letopočtem. The sorceresses emerge among the women of Rosak and begin to keep detailed breeding records, starting the future Kwisatz Haderach program. 383 година. The Zensuni wanderers land on Arrakis. 377 години. Discovery of a Muad'Ru runestone on an empty planet. 361 години. Birth of Abdel. 303 Bogarski Leva. The last massive assault of the machines on the League for the next 100 years. Agamemnon executes his 12th son. 277 години след Христа. Gina's soldiers find Kirox in a shipwreck. They reprogram it and begin using it for combat practices. 250 Biroji. Birth of Manian Butler. 240 Simrik нашої ери. Birth of Livia Butler. 238 години. Birth of Piers Harkonnen. 234 години. Possible birth of Iblis Ginjo. 228 години след Христа. Birth of Aurelius Venport. 226 години. Birth of Heoma. 225 BG. Hecate secretly returns to human space and begins to watch the war between Omnius and the League of Nobles. 224 години. Marriage of Manian Butler and Livia. Birth of Camiboro, descendant of the last emperor of the Old Empire. 223 години. Birth of Vorian Atreides and Xavier Harkonnen. 222 години. Birth of Serena Butler. 220 години след Христа. Birth of Octa and Fredo Butler. 218 години. Birth of Norma Kenva and Selim Wormrider. 217 години. Ulf and Katerina Harkonnen are attacked by Agamemnon. While en route to Salusa Secundus, Piers crashes on Caladan, presumed dead thenceforth, and dies later in the year. Dvesta I Chitrinadesed Gudini, birth of Mamad. Dvesta I Edinadesed Gudini, birth of Virgil Tantor, Ishmael, and Kalam Vaz. Dvesta I Deset Gudini, death of Conqui Kenva, supreme sorceress of Rosak. Her daughter, Zufa Kenva, takes the title of Supreme Sorceress. Selim is lost in the desert for 2 days. Dvesta I Shest Gudini, death of Fredo Butler. Dvesta I Pet Gudini. Xavier receives the legal entitlement to the original Harkonnen holdings. Serena Butler leads a relief team to the unallied planet of Caladan, where thousands of refugees from the synchronized worlds have fled, and provides relief for a biological blight that almost destroys the pristine farms on Poratrin. Dvesta I Chetiri Gudini. Xavier Harkonnen becomes a Salusan militia officer, 43. Serena Butler delivers 3 transports of medical supplies to closed-off Tlulax suffering from mysterious diseases. Dvesta I Tri Gudini. Theo Holtzman invents the Scrambler Web, which fails to protect the attack of the thinking machines against Salusa Secundus, the first battle of Zimia, in which Primero Vanabal Meech perishes. Xavier Harkonnen is promoted to the rank of Segundo for his actions in the battle. Selim is exiled from his village by Naib Dartha, but he discovers how to ride the sandworms of Arrakis. Erasmus is transferred from Corrin to Earth. Omnius conquers Giedi Prime and then dispatches thousands of deep space probes into the galaxy to establish machine bases. Holtzman invites Norma Kenva to work with him on Poratrin, and she invents the Suspensors. Tlulaxa slavers capture Ishmael on Harmonthep and sell him on Poratrin. Serena, Ort Wibson, Bridget Patterson, and Pinker Jib secretly assemble a strike force to liberate Giedi Prime. Serena is captured and becomes a slave of Erasmus, while the League Armada learns of this and helps to liberate Giedi. Haoma dies while killing Barbarossa. Vorian Atreides is given life extension treatment by his father, General Agamemnon. Dvesta I Dve Gudini Slet Christa. Xavier Harkonnen and Octa Butler get married. On Arrakis, Tuk Kedire realizes that the spice may be of value. Theo Holtzman invents the protecting shield. Birth of Manion the Innocent. Vorian and Surad have their 7th mission on Wolgus and encounter an asteroid field that damages the Dream Voyager. Foundation of Venki Enterprises by Tuk Kedire and Aurelius Venport. Selim begins assembling a group of outlaws. Dvesta Iedno Gudina. Birth of Roella Harkonnen. Erasmus kills the baby Manion. Revolt breaks out on Earth where Ajax is killed. The first slave revolt of Poratrin is suppressed and Belmule executed. Vorian Atreides, Serena Butler, and Iblis Ginjo flee to Salusa Secundus. Juno kills Eklo, and the Titans exterminate all human populace of Earth. Birth of Laronica Tergiet. Butlerian Jihad. 201 to 108 before God. 200 BG. The League of Nobles starts the Butlerian Jihad against the thinking machines. Using atomics, the League wipes out the thinking machines of Earth in the Battle of Earth. This nuclear attack renders Earth uninhabitable for centuries. 199 BC. Birth of Amelia Harkonnen. 198 BC. Bela Tegus is the first synchronized world. The newly assembled army of the Jihad attacks. The skirmish is inconclusive and Jihad retreats. 197 BC. Corinomnius sends a heavy fleet to Salusa Secundus, but the army of the Jihad rebuffs them in the ensuing Second Battle of Zimia. Vorian Atreides returns to Bela Tegus and discovers that the thinking machines have rebuilt it. Jafar joins the exiled Selim. Later, many follow his example, making Selim's outlaw band grow. 196 BC. Vorian Atreides is promoted to Segundo, first grade. Birth of Jewel Noret on Ginas. Tio Holtzman introduces the flicker and fire technique for his shields. 195 BC. The army of the Jihad attempts to free the population from the synchronized world Honru, but Omnius uses suicide robot ships that wipe out the whole Jihad fleet. Over 500,000 free humans are killed in the Honru massacre. Aliad is separated from his family. 194 BC. Virgil joins the military. 193 BC. The Jipol Jihad Police is officially established, led by Yorick Thur. In a political marriage, Iblis Ginjo marries Kami Boro. 192 BC. Gina's mercenaries offer their services to the Jihad as independent warriors. 50. Birth of Tambir Boro Ginjo, son of Iblis Ginjo and Kami Boro. 191 BC. 7 League representatives, political rivals or people enemies of Iblis Ginjo, are implicated as machine spies and interrogated by Jipol. Grand Patriarch Ginjo creates the Seraphim to protect Serena Butler. Ishmael and Azza get married. 190 BC. Manion Butler retires as Viceroy. Serena Butler is voted in as interim Viceroy. Virgil Tantor marries Sheil. Birth of Aquis Boro Ginjo. Birth of Shamal, daughter of Ishmael and Azza. 189 BC. Thinking machines conquer Elrum after the Battle of Elrum, an unsuccessful assassination attempt on Serena Butler. 188 BC. The thinking machines attack Peridot Colony. In the ensuing Battle of Peridot Colony, the army of the Jihad drives back the machines who follow a scorched earth policy, and the colony is ultimately destroyed. Virgil meets Kirox, the fateful, enthusiastic attack on Corin. Birth of Felina, second daughter of Ishmael and Azza. 187 BC. Grand Patriarch Iblis Ginjo proposes the Jihad Council to run the war and administer both domestic, Jipol, and foreign Army of the Jihad affairs. The memorial of the Jihadi martyrs begin on Zimia and Giedi City. 185 BC. Xavier Harkonnen and Vorian Atreides are both promoted to the rank of Primero. Norma Kenva moves from Holtzman's mansion to her secluded private laboratory and begins to work on Holtzman's original field equations to find a way to fold space. Birth of Gilbertus Albans. 184 BC. 3 unallied planets are conquered by machine forces to be used as bases of operations for their expansion. The machines adapt to human trickery and the captive Earth Omnius becomes outdated. 183 BC. Death of Lucille Tantor. Birth of Relin Boro Ginjo. 181 BG. 2 more unallied planets, Tyndall and Belos, fall to machine domination. 180 BG. Death of Mamad. Zon Noret fights on board a besieged machine ship where he is injured. 179 BC. Vorian Atreides proposes that the army of the Jihad must defend the unallied planets as well as League worlds. He explains how Omnius is moving, the pattern by which he is taking strategic star systems on the fringe of the League. The proposal passes. 178 BC. Liberation of Tyndall by a Jihad counterstrike. Jewel Norrit installs learning algorithms in Kirox, enabling it to develop its own skills when practicing. 177 BC, Battle of Fourth Anbus, an unallied planet. Another unsuccessful assassination attempt on Serena Butler. Marha joins Selim's group. Xerxes moves to suppress the rebellion of Ix. Norma Senva invents the theory of space folding. Death of Virgil Tantor. Death of Zon Norrit. 176 BG. Venport visits Poritrin and releases Norma from the contract that her inventions belong to Holtzman. He uses the profits gained by Venki to assist her in beginning building a space-folding ship. Erasmus starts to teach high-level machine logic to Gilbertus Albans to prove to Omnius that human intellect can be developed. The assault on Poritrin, which is repelled. The Cogitator, Quina, reveals to Serena the true intents of Ginjo and seizes his existence. Kieder sends Rekur Van to Arrakis. Venport proposes to Senva and leaves for Arrakis to settle the outlaws. Ishmael tried to speak with Nico Blood. As a consequence, he is separated from his family and goes with Eliad to work for Senva. 175 BG. Vorian Atreides places an Omnius update reprogrammed with false data on the derelict update ship near Earth and restarts the ship. Starting from Bela Tegeus, incarnations of Omnius on several synchronized worlds suffer major breakdown, victims of his trick. Ginjo and Yorek Thur, leaving from Poritrin, meet Hecate. The army of the Jihad succeeds in the liberation of Ix from machine domination with Hecate's help. Selim marries Marha, birth of the daughter of Omilia Harkonnen. 174 BG. Shamal marries Raphael. The League installs a station on Caladan, and Vorian falls in love with Leronica Tergied. Birth of Wandra Harkonnen, daughter of Xavier and Octa. The Ivory Tower Cogators visit Salusa Secundus, and Keats is sent as a secondary. Shamal and Raphael meet Ishmael. Corin Omnius is corrupted, and Erasmus destroys the corrupted Omnius update. Venport builds the prototype space-folding ship on Poritrin. Nico Blood and Tio Holtzman cast Norma out from the planet, and she is captured by Xerxes. The Great Slave Uprising is ignited on Poritrin by Eliad, who dies while killing Tio Holtzman. Lord Nico Blood also dies, as well as much of the population of Starda, which is destroyed, and all of Poritrin. To escape the slaughter, Ishmael and his Zensuni followers capture Kieder and flee to Arrakis with the untried space-folding ship, the first successful space-folding trip. Death of Darta and Selim. The uprising triggers a pogrom of the slaves. Venport arrives at Salusa and starts to look for Norma. An immense telekinetic power awakens in Norma Senva, who destroys Xerxes. The Titans destroy a slave encampment on Ularda. Jewel Norrit allows Kirox to train Gina's mercenaries in combat. The city of Bandalong is built on Tlulax. Birth of Quentin Vigar. 173 BG. Slavers devastate Chusak and let believe it was done by the machines. Birth of Elhim, son of Selim and Marha. Agamemnon, Dante, Juno, and several Neo-Simex revolt against Omnius and conquer Bela Tegeus. Jafar's outlaws take in the Poritrins and Sunni refugees. Leronica marries Kalam Vaz. Birth of Vorians and Leronica's twin sons, Estes and Kagan. Norma and Aurelius establish a shipyard on Kolhar to produce space-folding ships. Birth of Tisha Senva, daughter of Zufa and Iblis. The Titans set up a Neo-Kemek army from the populace of Bela Tegeus and start a war against Omnius. 172 BG. Birth of Adrian Venport, son of Norma and Aurelius. 166 BG. Death of Manion and Livia Butler. The humans of the Riso planetoid are abducted in the Battle of Riso. Gilbertus Albans is given life extension treatment by Erasmus. 165 BG. Serena asks Venport to contribute his technology to the jihad. Vorian and Xavier go to Kolhar. Death of Kalam Vaz. 164 BG. Aurelius Venport gives the space-folding technology and the Kolhar shipyards to the jihad's disposal. Aurelius and outstanding Dr. Rajid Suk are given the Manian Cross by Serena. Cogitor Vidad and his colleagues broker peace between Omnius and the League. The war-weary humans want peace in spite of Serena Butler's and Iblis Ginjo's protest. Serena Butler travels to Corin seemingly to negotiate peace, but in truth to die a martyr's death. She provokes Omnius until she is executed. Serena's martyrdom gives a new flame to the jihad. Zufa Senva is abducted by Hecate. Thinking she is an enemy, she destroys her in a telekinetic blast. Zufa and Aurelius Venport die along with Hecate. Ticha Senva becomes supreme sorceress of Rosak. Hecate's asteroid falls on Ginas. Death of Jewel Noret. Xavier Harkonnen discovers that Iblis Ginjo and the Tlulaxa have been kidnapping humans in large numbers for years from some planets and using their organs as replacement for jihadis. Xavier sends notice to Vorian Atreides, then kills Iblis and himself. After the death of Jewel Noret, the Ginaz mercenaries begin training the first true Ginaz swordmasters and set up the Yul Noret Swordmaster School in his name. The Titans conquer Richeza. Tlulax is invaded by mobs after their activities are revealed to the League. The Tlulaxa are forced to flee their homeworld. Ishmael and Marha get married. The whole truth concerning the Tlulaxa organ scandal is never revealed. Thus, history will remember Iblis Ginjo as hero and Harkonnen as traitor. To escape the tainted Harkonnen name, Wandra Butler takes the name Butler. Kami Boro becomes Grand Patriarch. After fleeing Tlulax, Riker Van flees to the synchronized worlds and offers Erasmus a sample of modified DNA of Serena Butler. They attempt to create a clone, but Erasmus is heavily disappointed. However, he finds Riker interesting and enjoys his company. Erasmus subsequently removes his arms and legs and leaves the core of his body in a life support socket with a system of nutrient and waste tubes. His limbs are experimentally transplanted into human test subjects, 4 arms and 4 legs, with manipulations of a patiently administered system of rewards and punishments. The stump, as he called him, Van becomes an experimental subject. Ishmael declares the combined Zenshini group of Arrakis, of Jafar's outlaws, and the former Poritran slaves, the free men of Arrakis. 154 BG. Kami Boro leaves the post of Grand Patriarch to Tambir Boro. 153 BG. Yorick Thur, who aspired to become Grand Patriarch, fakes his own death and escapes to the synchronized worlds. Stoped descend I 2 godini sled Christa. Birth of Xander Boro Ginjo, son of Relin Boro. 150 BG. Liberation of Parmentier. Quentin Vigar marries Wandra Butler, and out of respect for the Butler family, takes the name Butler. Circa 148 dopo Cristo. Birth of Mohandas Suk, the nephew of Rajid Suk. 145 BG. Birth of Faken Butler, son of Quentin and Wandra Butler. 138 BG. Birth of Rikoff Butler, son of Quentin and Wandra Butler. 137 BG. Birth of Raquela Berto Anirul, granddaughter of Vorian Atreides and Carida Julan. 133 BG, birth of Jimbei Wit. 132 Bulgarian Leva, birth of Jessica Boroginjo, daughter of Xander Boroginjo. 129 BG, Swordmaster Boris is enslaved by Omnius during a battle at Ularda. 128 bin Galom, birth of Hyla and Andros, children of Agamemnon. 126 BG, birth of Abelard Butler, son of Quentin and Wandra Butler. 68. Wandra suffers a stroke on his birth. 123 Bulgarian Lev. The thinking machines unsuccessfully try to reconquer Ix in the Battle of Ix. 120 BG, Rykov Butler marries Kohei Tantor. 119 BG, birth of Reyna Butler, daughter of Rykov and Kohei. 118 BG, birth of Horace Roker on Corin. 115 BG, death of Helmina Berto Anirul, daughter of Vorian Atreides and Carida Julan. Use on BG, death of Kami Boro, Xander Boro Ginjo becomes Grand Patriarch. 108 Bulgarian Leva. Vorian Atreides reveals to Abelard Butler the true role of Xavier Harkonnen in the Tllulaxa organ scandal, liberation of Honru. Omnius infects the League planets with the Omnius Scourge, causing the death of billions. Istian Goss graduates as Swordmaster. The Titans escape to Hesra from Omnius's renewing attacks and kill the Cogators and Keats. Death of Rykov Butler and Kohei Tantor. Reyna Butler starts a fanatic movement named the Cult of Serena, which begins to destroy both electronic and mechanical machines. Raquela Berto Anirul discovers that melange may offer protection against the Scourge. As a result, spice prospectors begin to swarm to Arrakis. Venki puts more spice on the market. The Zensuni, trading with Venki, led by Elhim, move closer to Arrakis City, their lifestyle becoming softer. The Rosak sorceresses, led by Ticha Kenva, begin to collect genetic samples of the virus-endangered humanity's bloodlines. Abelard Butler makes Harkonnen his family name. The Corin Omnius gathers all robot spaceships to launch a devastating attack against the League of Nobles, absorbed with fighting the Demon Scourge. Death of Laronica Tergiet. The League sends the Great Purge Fleet against the unprotected synchronized worlds and burns all but Corin with nuclear fire. Death of Boris. Learning about the Great Purge, the Corin Omnius recalls the robot fleet to protect Corin. The army of the Jihad draws an impenetrable blockade around Corin, trapping the remaining thinking machines. The Butlerian Jihad is declared officially over. The Demon Scourge slowly burns itself out. Agamemnon's children, Hyla and Andros, are imprisoned in a preservation vault. Road to the Battle of Corin. 108 to 88 BG. 107 Bulgarian Leva. Raquela Berto Anirul and Mohandas Suk flee to an outlying Jewish village on Parmentier, which they try to help through the Scourge, but is burnt down. They make a secret agreement with the surviving Jews. They are then recruited by Vorian Atreides to help form the Humanities Medical Commission, or HUMED, to replace the Jihad Medical Commission. 106 Bulgarian Leva. Vorian proposes a hit against Hesra, but is dismissed. 103 BG. Quentin Butler retires from the Army of Humanity. Birth of Jimak Tero. Nur Bikagram. Fiken Butler marries Jessica Boro Ginjo. 98. B.G. Fiken Butler establishes the Post-Jihad Council. Birth of Jules Butler. 93. B.G. Fiken Butler becomes Viceroy of the League. Istian Goss becomes a swordmaster tutor on Ginaz. Battle of Corin. 88. B.G. Slavers begin to harass the Iraqis' Zinsuni settlements. Quentin Butler is captured by the Titans and transformed into a Kimek. Norma Kenva discovers the use of melange for space folders. She becomes the first navigator. The Rosak epidemic breaks. Rakela Berto Anirul and Mohandas Suk travel to there. Supported by the cult of Serena, Fiken Butler declares himself viceroy and installs a law that prohibits the production of thinking machines. Yorick Thur flees Corin for Salusa Secundus and kills Xander Boro Ginjo. The cult of Serena starts to destroy machines on Salusa Secundus, and Cogitor Vidad is killed. Abulurd Harkonnen kills Yorick Thur. Ticha Kenva poisons Rakela Berto Anirul, but she changes her internal body chemistry and transforms into the First Reverend Mother. Tisha Senva commits suicide. Vorian Atreides and Quentin Butler kill the last three Titans. Agamemnon, Juno, and Dante, and Quentin Butler is killed as the Neo-Kimeks begin to shut down. Kyrox kills Nar Trig, now a loyal member of the cult of Serena, in combat, then shuts himself down to prevent Istian Goss from being killed by cultists. The League launches the Battle of Corin. Omnius draws the bridge of Hrethgir around Corin to stop the human fleet, but Vorian Atreides launches the attack. Abulurd Harkonnen tries to sabotage him to save the slaves. The Corin Omnius broadcasts a copy of itself into space before humanity destroys the last incarnations of Omnius and the thinking machines. Gilbertus Albans saves the brain of Erasmus from the Holocaust, escaping Corin in disguise as a human slave and going to Lecter as a farmer. Slave pen master Horace Roker also escapes, changing his name and beginning a new life in exile. Adrian Venport founds Fold Space Shipping Company. The space folders are navigated by prescience enabled by melange, based on Norma's breakthrough. To commemorate the Battle of Corin, Fiken Butler and his son Jules take the name Corino, and joining the titles of Grand Patriarch and Viceroy, Fiken declares himself the Emperor of Humanity, founding the Corino Empire. The Golden Lion Throne is set up for Fiken. The League of Nobles is disbanded and replaced by the Landsrod League of Great Houses, headed by the Imperial House Corino. At Vorian Atreides' suggestion, Abulurd Harkonnen is declared a coward and exiled. Abulurd settles on Lankaville and passes his hatred of Vorian Atreides to the next Harkonnen generation, which will eventually give birth to enmity between House Atreides and House Harkonnen. Rakela Berto Anirul becomes leader of the surviving sorceresses and founds the Sisterhood of Rosak to preserve mankind's genetic heritage. The secret agreement with the Jews passes to the Sisterhood and will remain for 15,000 years. Ishmael and a group of freemen harassed by slavers move to the deep desert of Arrakis. The freemen, adapting to the harsh lifestyle, will during the next centuries become the Freeman people Elhim and his followers slowly merge with the townfolk of the North Pole of Arrakis. 78. With the lead of the cult of Serena, machine destruction hits the inhabited worlds in renewed waves, wiping out most of the machine-based technology and also the majority of historical documents. Culture based on the production of highly developed machines survives only on Ix and Rachis. Dr. Mohandas Suk founds a medical school like the League has never seen, the Suk Medical School, after witnessing the Omnius Scourge and Rosak epidemic. Corino Empire, 88 before God, 10,193 after God, 87 BG, deactivation of the last Neo-Simex, 79, death of Wandra Butler, 58, 85 Bulgarian Leva, Abulurd Harkonnen marries, birth of Dirdos Harkonnen and his two brothers, 80, 81 BG, Gilbertus Albans leaves Lecter with Erasmus, c. 78 BG, death of Vicon Corino. Jules Corino becomes emperor and amends the Venport Agreement to allow competition to Venport Holdings. 81. 75 BG, Vorian Atreides marries Mariella on Kepler. 68 Bodo, death of Abulurd Harkonnen and his wife from a fever in their fishing village. Dirdos Harkonnen founds House Harkonnen on Lankyvale. Under the encouragement of Erasmus, Gilbertus Albans reclaims his original name and founds the Order of Mentats on Lampadas. 52 BG, birth of Salvador Corino. 82. 51 BG, birth of Clar Atreides, son of Vorian Atreides, on Kepler. Peddeset Bugari, birth of Roderick Corino. 82. 45 BG, Orijoma is dismissed from the Sisterhood of Rosak in disgrace. 83. Birth of a pureblood sorceress on Rosak. 84. 35. BG, birth of Esther Kano. 84. 32 billion gallons. The CET begin compiling the Orange Catholic Bible. Yirmi Sekis BG, birth of Griffin Harkonnen. 85. Yirmi Alta BG, birth of Anna Corino and Valya Harkonnen. Yirmi Besh BG, birth of Willem Atreides on Caladan. The Commission of Ecumenical Translators compiles the Orange Catholic Bible on Old Earth, meant to quell all religious divisions. 86. Toure Bomoko and the delegates are granted sanctuary by Jules Corino. 87. 22 BG 88. Manfred Toronto is deprived of both legs in the bomb blast that kills Reyna Butler, who dies in his arms. He begins leading the cult of Serena, renaming it the Butlerian Movement. He leads Swordmaster Anari Idaho and millions of people across the Imperium to cleanse humanity of its reliance on convenient technologies, often exploiting religious paranoia to advance his agendas. 89. Toure Bomoko rapes the Empress Orena Corino. All 35 of the delegates are violently executed, but Toure somehow manages to escape and hide on Tupil, where he eventually dies with the help of Joseph Venport. 20 BG, Manfred Toronto visits the Thalim system. The Butlerians declare the Tlulaxa biological projects to be against the laws of man and God, and they are destroyed. Strict rules are imposed upon all Tlulaxa scientists. 17 BG, death of Jules Corino. 90. From a brain tumor, Salvador Corino becomes Padishah Emperor. Patupikagram. Valya Harkonnen is recruited to the Sisterhood of Rosak. 191 by Sister Arlet. 192. Galactic Civil War. 5 BG 93. The Butler family, under the name Corino, has consolidated a tenuous hold on the human-occupied universe. The head of the Corino family, Emperor Salvador, lives in splendor on the planet Salusa Secundus with his brother and trusted advisor, Roderick. Riots still rage over the Orange Catholic Bible of the Commission of Seminole Translators. Constantly, innocents are executed by mobs mistaken for the hated Toure Bomoko. In opposition to the popular movement is the unscrupulous businessman Joseph Venport, who holds a near monopoly on space travel, advised by his wife Chioba and great-grandmother Norma Kenva, who discovered the secret to creating space-folding navigators. Joseph plots against his few remaining competitors and funds a secret group of scientific researchers who hold personal grudges against the Butlerians and are willing to salvage and optimize old Simic technology to satisfy their vendettas with Tyrando. On the planet Kepler, war hero Vorian Atreides attempts to keep his neighbors free from the threat of slavers. An attempt to obtain imperial protection for his planet is successful, but Vorian is sent even deeper into exile by Salvador and Roderick, who are concerned that the jihad hero may, through his celebrity, incite a rebellion against their authority. He chooses to go to Arrakis, where the free men of DUNE, who have abandoned the easier life of the Arakeen villages, continue to thrive in the desert, encountering various enemies and allies during the course of their existence. On the planet Lankavale, the Harkonnen family ekes out a lean existence far from the glory enjoyed by their ancestors, after Vorian Atreides disowned the disgraced Abulurd Harkonnen, while the parents have decided to surrender ambition for survival and a humble existence. The two oldest children, Griffin and Valia, seek to rebuild their family fortunes through service to the Landsraad and the Sisterhood on Rosak, respectively. Vorian's granddaughter, Raquela Berto Anirul, who survived a poisoning that provided her with the memories and mental presences of her female ancestors, leads the Sisterhood of Rosak. She thwarts Butlerian sympathizers within her own ranks, who correctly suspect that Raquela and her inner circle are using computers to manage their breeding index, which comprises an immense amount of family data from across the Imperium. Raquela is aided in these efforts by Sister Valia Harkonnen, who finds her efforts to rebuild her family's glory impeded when the spoiled princess Anna Corino, sister to Emperor Salvador and Roderick, is sent to Rosak. Anna, viewed as an embarrassment by the royal family, is meant to learn important skills with the sisters, but instead follows her own childish ambitions. Sister Dorothea steals 2 pills of the Rosak drug that gave Raquela her abilities and encourages Valia to take it alongside her. While Dorothea became the second ever Reverend Mother after taking and surviving it, Valia merely pretends to take it, but keeps the pill. Reverend Mother Dorothea learns of the Sisterhood's secret computers, and that Raquela is her grandmother. More follow her, including Anna Corino, who fails to become a Reverend Mother and enters a trance state. Through the new director of the Suk Medical School and former Rosak sister, Dr. Ori Joma, the Sisterhood also plots against Salvador, who it fears may be the ancestor of a potentially disastrous tyrant. The Mentat Gilbertus Albans attempts to maintain order in his Mentat school on the planet Lampedas and hide the existence of his old mentor, The robot Erasmus 4BG Gilbertus Albans is dragged into the Butlerian movement's anti-technology campaign by the fanaticism of his most vocal students and the furor of Taurando, who coerces Gilbertus to serve as his special advisor. Gilbertus finds himself forced into a confrontation with his best student and friend, Drygo, who is in the service of Josef Venport's Venhold shipping conglomerate. Hyla and Andros decide to find Vorian and potentially convert them back to the side of the thinking machines. They go to Kepler, where they have learned he is living, and they burn his house and kill his wife after she tells them he has gone to Arrakis. Griffin Harkonnen also goes to Arrakis to find Vorian, who is banished from a sietch of free men after they are attacked, and some of them are killed by Hyla and Andros, which the Naib sees to be Vorian's fault. Before Vorian's banishment, Abelard is found by the free men and brought to him. It is decided they will both be exiled to the desert. Griffin escapes and is saved from a sandworm by Vorian. The Naib tells Griffin and Vorian they must fight to end their blood feud. During the fight, Griffin reveals to Vorian that his wife is dead, catching him off guard and ultimately getting him at his mercy, although he decides not to kill him out of honoring ending the feud. The two are placed in the desert hut. Griffin is killed by Hyla. Vorian attracts a worm, which kills both Hyla and Andros. The Emperor Salvador is told about the Sisterhood's computers by Sister Doretia when she brings Anna back to Salusa Secundus. He goes to Rosak to investigate this, but Rakela and Valia destroy the computer in advance, and the Emperor finds nothing. When the sorceresses attack Salvador, he is furious and declares the Sisterhood of Rosak disbanded by imperial decree. Valia travels back to Lankaville and finally takes the drug, becoming the third ever Reverend Mother. Shortly after, her and 27 other sisters, led by Mother Superior Rakela, are given sanctuary by Joseph Venport on Wallach Nye, where they hope to rebuild the Sisterhood. The CET releases a sanitized OCB with the cautious approval of the Emperor Salvador, but this does not stop the murders. Ultimately, Roderick Carino uses them to the Imperium's advantage, killing Dr. Joma and pretending she has been killed as Toure Bomoko, and that the DNA shows that this is the real Bomoko, born ending the riots and killings and getting rid of Joma. Dorothea founds the Orthodox Sisterhood sanctioned by Emperor Roderick on Salusa Secundus. Horace Roker is found and burnt to death by Butlerians. 3. BG industrialist Josef Venport squares off against Taurando. Gilbertus Albans refuses to force his mentats to swear an oath to the Butlerians. He is executed after the siege of the mentat school, but Anna Carino escapes with Erasmus. A riot incited by Taurando results in the death of Roderick's daughter. Venport uses the constant danger of giant sandworms to orchestrate the Emperor's assassination. Rakela summons Dorothea and the Orthodox sisters to the school and names her and Vela co-leaders before she dies to heal the rift. However, Vela uses her newly discovered power of voice to force Dorothea to commit suicide, declaring herself to be the sole Mother Superior of the reunited order and ingratiating herself to the Emperor Roderick. Vorian Atreides travels to Caladan to meet his descendants. Soon tragedy begins to befall the Atreides, and Vorian realizes too late that Griffin and Valia's younger sister, Tula, have visited Harkonnen vengeance on them. 1 BG/AG equals approximately 13,000 AD. The Battle of Lampedusa ends with a House Corino victory, resulting in the death of leader Manford Turando, although the weakened movement continues under Anari, Idaho. The Battle of Denali ends with a House Corino victory and the end to the Venport holdings. Death of Erasmus and Anna Corino. Foldspace Shipping Company takes the name Spacing Guild and monopolizes space commerce, transport, and interplanetary banking, establishing more uniform and orderly interstellar travel and finance, as well as the imposing of the restrictions of the Guild peace. Beginning of the Guild calendar 94. Willem Atreides founds House Atreides in opposition to House Harkonnen, which is beginning to gain more power under Danvis Harkonnen. This solidifies the Atreides-Harkonnen feud for thousands of years. Combined Mercantiles, a former subsidiary of Venhold, is renamed Choam, Combine Honnet Ober Advancer Mercantiles, and begins rising to become a major conglomerate in the empire. The date that the Universal Standard Calendar is centered. Valya Harkonnen begins changing the focus of the Sisterhood of Wallach Nai, transforming it into a new Bene Gesserit sisterhood. The centuries after the formation of the Guild. 9 AG Death of Roderick Corino, who is replaced by his son Javico. Gerhard Harkonnen incapacitates his cousin Danvis and becomes the leader of House Harkonnen. 1st century AG. Life of the religious writer Neshu. The Great Convention is signed. According to it, the combined power of the great houses may destroy anyone who uses atomic power against human beings. 3rd century AG. The poisons commonly used in a war of assassins are compiled in the Assassin's Handbook. It will later be expanded to include those deadly devices permitted under the Guild Peace and Great Convention. C. Ayiram Aandugal Kazhithal. Invasion of Wallach 9. C. 2000 Aandugal Christu Mun. The Seleucia incident, an atomic catastrophe caused by House Tantor, destroys the ecology of Seleucia Secundus. Emperor Hasek III moves the imperial throne to Kaitine. Seleucia Secundus is made imperial prison planet. C. 5000 Aandugal Kazhithu. A Bene Gesserit sister on Rosak discovers a plant that enables thought merging. From this date, sisters working at the Freeman Sayadanas will preserve Zensuni history by thought merging and memory transfer instead of oral history. 9153 AG. The governorship of Arrakis becomes an imperial boon granted to a chosen family that will govern the planet for a term not to exceed a century. 9175 AG. Liberation of Bikal in the Senusar defense. 9843 AG. Birth of Fondel, son of Emperor Voutier Corino II. 9997 AG. Birth of Barbara Mutelli. 9999 AG. Birth of Elrud IX, son of Emperor Fondel III. Patayrat Patyeji. House Riches is given governorship of Arrakis. Patayrat Padinette Yeji. Death of Emperor Fondel III. Elrud Corino IX ascends the throne. Birth of Wensicia Mutelli, daughter of Elrud Corino and Barbara Mutelli. During the reign of Elrud IX, Riches is overpowered by Ix in an economic warfare This leads to the political and economic decline of House Ricci's.